Story time. So, I was just on vacation and I just got back. I took a bus today and took a train and still had about a mile to walk. And as I was walking, I was about halfway home and an undercover police car turned its lights on and kind of drove up on the sidewalk where I was at. And I guess there wasn't a whole lot going through my head, like right out the gate. It's not like I saw it coming. It definitely was, it took me a level, it took me by surprise to an extent, let's say. Um, Although I also was fairly well aware that, I mean, straight up, I looked suspicious, you know? I looked suspicious. There's just no other way to say it. I was carrying my ukulele case, which I think uh, can sometimes, to from a certain point of view, to some people, it could look like a gun case, uh, which I am aware of. I try not to think about it too much. That was one of the first questions that I was asked: is did I have any guns on me? And of course, I didn't, and I said no, and I said no almost a little bit angrily, almost. Not, you know, angrily in the sense of like healthy anger. Like, maybe anger is not quite the right word here, but I was pretty taken aback just because guns and me are very distant strangers to one another. I'm not interested in guns. Uh, I don't think I ever would be. It's like a word that I never speak. I never really hear about them. I don't think about them. I'd have to imagine that maybe the world would be better off with fewer of them. But yeah, so interestingly enough, I ended up taking out the ukulele with the officer, and I played for just a few seconds. And, you know, I told him, I said I was in Las Vegas. He said I smelt of alcohol. In fact, he was pretty accusatory, you might say. I mean, he believed that I was under the influence of alcohol, and I wasn't. Unless you count, like, I've had alcohol in my life. I should think, if you really want to get technical about it, the only person on the planet, or people, who are not influenced by alcohol whatsoever are the ones who have never had a sip. But even then, there are so many people who have had alcohol that do still mingle with people who have had alcohol. So, like, find me somebody who isn't. Find me a planet and a population that is not influenced by alcohol, and I'll show you a golden unicorn. Um, but of course, I was not actively influenced by it. I was sleep deprived, and those two are very similar. They have very similar effects on human consciousness or the psyche or whatever. Alcohol and sleep deprivation. And that was actually the very first thing that I mentioned to the officer as he was getting out of his vehicle and walking over. I said, "Look, I have to preface this by saying I'm very sleep deprived and I'm just trying to go home and go to sleep." Uh, but yeah, it was a rather interesting occasion. Obviously, those kind of moments can be very harrowing in some ways. They could be scary. all in all, it was like, it was a pretty like, it turned out to be a pretty positive interaction. I felt a level of respect and compassion for the officer, because I know that anybody that does law enforcement, their job is very hard. It's very hard. If I could design a planet with a population of sentient beings, I don't think I would design it to have people of law enforcement. That is to say, if I could design everything, if I were God, then we wouldn't need law enforcement, right? But the way that our imperfect world is and everything, and just the temptation of the devil that can lead us astray and all of this stuff, obviously there's some level of need for people who are serving the public, you know. But yeah, I mean, I try to look at all people like they're human. I noticed the dude had tattoos on his arms. I thought that was pretty cool. And the other thing was I had sunglasses on. So here I am walking around. My clothes are somewhat dirty. I was actually just in Las Vegas, basically. Just, I know how to have a good time. I'll say that. Like, I was kind of living it up in Las Vegas for the last 48 hours. And I had a beanie on, sunglasses on. Again, I was carrying my ukulele case. Clothes were kind of dirty. And I was hella sleep deprived, and just, I don't even know. The moment I saw the police vehicle, I'm like, dude, like, I don't know if I can, like, do this right now, because I was just trying to get home. It had been a long travel and everything. But yeah, all in all, I guess that's basically the story. It was a pretty positive interaction. And what bothers me most of all, I think, is that some of these interactions go sour between law enforcement people and civilians, mostly because of anxiety and fear, you know? And maybe a level of just kind of free-floating guilt that many of us feel just because. I mean, just because, all of us have guilt for one reason or another. None of us are completely, uh, you know, guilt-free, whether it's for good reason or not. But, it's a somewhat common emotion. I was going to say popular emotion. I guess common emotion is probably a better way to say it. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that, because at the same time, like, it was hard for me too, because a lot of the time, I think the way that law enforcement operates these days is they're pretty certain, they're pretty sure of when they're going to talk with somebody that, there's good reason. In other words, like, they're probably going to be making an arrest or something. But I don't know. This dude, I could tell he had a good heart, and I could tell he was just kind of checking in on somebody who looked a certain way. And yeah, so that's my story.